Hey, welcome back to the Explore podcast with Scott and Ryan. We like to talk about real estate, entrepreneurship, motivation, and much more. What's going on, Scott?
Hey Ryan, what's going on? TJ, what's up, man?
What's happening?
How we doing today?
Good, man. Honored and looking forward to having this conversation with you guys.
Cloudy, windy, gloomy day here in Kansas City. So it ready for it to warm up a little bit.
For sure, for sure. But I
You
was
guys, I
thankful
gotta
for these last couple of days, though.
it's been beautiful.
Yeah.
And I gotta say something real quick. I was texting Ryan right before this. I was just telling TJ, you guys look back at all of our other videos. Ryan's always in a t-shirt. I texted him, I said, hey, TJ's gonna be looking sharp. You better get dressed up. And Ryan comes dressed up to the podcast. He actually
I love the blazer, man. I think I got one just like it.
Hey, this might be yours. I don't know.
TJ, you have way too much swag to be wearing that kind of stuff like Ryan. Ryan has some of the worst style. It's pathetic.
Oh man, I doubt it.
Well, guys, hey, I appreciate everybody listening, and I'll kind of kick it off here. I'll give you guys a little bit of background on TJ here. So I've got a kind of a bio. TJ is in charge of the management of Integrity Capital Management, Jolly and Associates, and Legacy Asset Group, which includes overseeing more than 400 residential and commercial properties. The primary purpose of these establishments is to redevelop the urban core of Kansas City by providing affordable housing and pathways to ownership. Trail is devoted to offering the highest quality management services for a wide range of customers, such as property owners, occupants, investment partners, and so forth. He's been a business executive in the particular field of single-family, multifamily, residential, and commercial properties for the last 16 years. His guideline is straightforward: be knowledgeable, honest, hardworking, and a servant leader. He always says, trust the process. And I promise you, he says that a lot, because TJ and I have sat down many different times, been involved in a couple of different groups, and he's always saying, hey, trust the process, trust the process. I really respect this guy. He's really got a pretty cool niche, actually, one that we'll talk about today, the Abandoned Housing Act in Kansas City. It's a pretty niche field, and TJ really crushes it. But yeah, TJ, welcome to the show. Want to give us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, thanks. Thanks for the introduction. I'm trying to figure out who you were talking about, but I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show. All those things sound great, but at the end of the day, I'm just a steward, man. I'm just a steward over what the Lord has gave me the opportunity to put my mind to and execute and do. And I never lose sight of that. So, that's the only thing I really have to add to what you said, is that it's not me. It's about the people around me and the good man upstairs.
Yeah, TJ, and I think I said it, he is a true servant leader. He's always helping people and working on making Kansas City and many other places a better place to be and live, and real passionate about it. You can tell when you talk to him that he really cares about the things that he's doing, which is why he succeeds at a high level.
Thanks, man. He's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So TJ, tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of your background, your story. How'd you get into real estate? Where'd you come from? What's your education, your work background? Let's start there.
Well, great. I'm not originally from Kansas City. Born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. But I tell people urban core is urban core wherever you go, no matter around the globe. But left Detroit, went to school in Montgomery, Alabama, graduated from Alabama State, historically black college. School really wasn't my thing. I'll be honest with you. But what I did, I think before I even really honed and really lived that statement, trust the process, college taught me that, right? College just taught me the aspect of how to stick something out, get through with it, and get it done, just because that's all college is really about, man. Because when you get out in the real world, it's a different ball game. So graduated there, end up having a life-changing experience by meeting a person that is like a mentor to me today, but a guy came in and recruited me for a lumber company by the name of Mr. Queen. And if anybody know anything about the lumber industry, it is not diverse at all. Period. And I'm not talking about from the aspect of what I look like, but it's about your last name, right? So
Yep.
the lumber industry is something drastically different. And I had an opportunity to come on board. They never hired anybody outside the company before. He saw something in me and gave me a shot. And I think I was the first person to be recruited outside of the lumber company, and it was a true experience. So, everybody talk about private jets and all that stuff now. I mean, we talking about back in 2009. We hop on a jet and we go to some lumber plants, right? Indiana. We shoot over to Nauvoo, Alabama. Never heard of it before, right? And then we end up going to a place called Pleasant Hill, Missouri. So when we land in Pleasant Hill, P Hill. So when we end up landing in P Hill, I'm just looking at the plan and going around, whatever the case may be. I knew when I was hired by Southeast Wood Treating Company, I knew that I was going to be end up placed somewhere, but I didn't know exactly where. So spent some time in North Carolina. Long story short, Mr. Queen calls me in his office one day and say, "Hey, we got a spot for you. You're going to Kansas City." And I'm like, "We never been to Kansas City. What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Pleasant Hill, Missouri." I'm like, "Oh man." And I have to be honest, I was like, "Is there anywhere else?" Because I was really excited about a plant in Rock Hill, North Carolina, because it's right there at Charlotte. So I was really excited about that one. But he's like, "No, you either take the job or you can quit." So,
and just to give you guys a little background, Pleasant Hill is a very small, even today, like it's developed a little bit more, but it is a tiny town. So when you're talking about Detroit, Montgomery, Alabama, like places that have a lot going on, like this is tiny country rural, about 40 minutes outside of Kansas City.
Yeah. And,
so then here comes TJ getting off a private jet.
Yeah. Well, that was
not that time around.
That was like the bells and whistle, but when it came down to it, I drove up here, right? So took the job, didn't know anyone here, came down as the assistant manager of a lumber company.
And when was that roughly timeline wise?
That was February 25th, 2009, 11:43 a.m.
Oh wow, this man's got it down to a T.
Yeah. So it was life changing. That's how I remember it. So it was crazy. So came down here and got to work and really kind of understood. When you graduate in college, the only thing you're thinking about is making a decent salary, right? You're not really focusing on your passion per se. I didn't know anyone here. I had no relationships. It was. I look back at that time. It was a very isolating time. I just remember that. But I had an uncle that was pretty high up in RS, and he oversaw office here in the Kansas City area. And he came and visited. He's like, "I'm in town. Let's have dinner." I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "What you doing with yourself?" I was like, "I'm going to work, going home." He's like, "Man, you got to do something else." And I was like, "Well, what you want me to do?" He was like, "Go back to school." I'm like, "Oh no, man, I'm not going back to school.
I'm done with that.
I'm done." And he's like, "No, take a look at it, And I did. And ironically, at the same time, again, the lumber industry is not based on degrees. It's based on work. A lot of these people in the industry went from sweeping brooms all the way to a plant manager. That's the type of culture that you're dealing with. So it was interesting that Mr. Queen ended up introducing like an education incentive program where they would pay some of your semesters, this and that, whatever. So I was like, all right, let's rock and roll. I went and got my MBA from University of Phoenix. And one thing I could really appreciate about that process is that it wasn't school anymore, because it was like real life experiences that I was working through. When it came down to put papers or test out or whatever, I'm flying through it because I'm dealing there every day. So ended up working my way up to plant manager, rocking and rolling, and then meet my wife. closing on a house. As we closed on a house, a broker by the name of Bill White said, "Hey man, you're a very organized individual. Have you ever thought about, doing property management?" And I'm graduated with my MBA, so I know everything, right? And
Yep.
and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's rock and roll. Let's figure this out. And I put a business plan together. But like Mike Tyson says, you got a game plan till you get smacked in the mouth. And it was
Yep.
drastically different to when you get out there, right? I could read financials, I'm looking at business, reading about Apple, whatever. But now, we developing this business. So I get my first customer. It was the right customer, a retired judge, gave me an opportunity, pretty well known in the Kansas City area, and start managing their home. And if you don't know anything about Kansas City, what's interesting about Kansas City is that, don't quote me, but it might be correct. But if you go into the Nashville Museum of Racism, they have truce, the street truce in the actual museum for
Museum.
redlining. So this is where redlining was created. So I didn't realize this. So the first home that I ended up managing, it was over on the street called Harrison. Now Harrison is 1 block west of Truce. Now that was amazing because when I listed the property, man, my phone was going off the hook, and I couldn't understand why. Back then, $1,200 for a 3 bedroom, 1 bath was pretty high, and it was going crazy. And come to find out, because of the location, and this was the only home on the block that wasn't owned by a UMKC or Rockhurst. So just kind of blew that business up, and really started.
Let's step back for a second.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Kansas City does have a really, really unique history. And
Yes.
Terrell and I went through this program together, Centurion's Leadership here in Kansas City. It's a leadership development, but they say you get an MBA in Kansas City. And I mean, you really do learn a lot behind the scenes of Kansas City, kind of the history, the public, the civic, the private sectors. And one of the big things that is obviously kind of at the top of the board right now is DEI, everything else. So we really focus on these topics. And Kansas City, it does the truce line. If you don't know Kansas City, Terrell's exactly right. The truce line is a very interesting dynamic. I have never heard of it or seen it anywhere else. And if you're from Kansas City, you kind of get it. But until you really learn more about it, you don't realize how deep and ingrained racism was here. The community, what happened is we have a ton of schools as well. So like bigger cities, most of the time they have Boston has the Boston School District, and it's huge. Well, Kansas City, they kept segregating, and that truce line was that divide, which is what they call a red line. And J.C. Reese, real popular developer here in Kansas City, he just kept growing outside of the city and building new subdivisions just one step further, one street further away from the last subdivision every time a Black family or family of color, moved into the neighborhoods, and they didn't want them there. So they just built their own neighborhood right next to it. And Terrell, you can give us a little more history on it. I mean, you know all about it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting. I was just telling somebody the other day. As of last year, I can remember being in a conversation on certain deeds on the west of the truce line. It still states that a Black person can't own the property.
There's I sold a property in Shawnee Mission, Kansas, Swan Lake last year, and we were looking at the old deed, and it still says it in there.
It says it.
My client, he said it to me, he said, "What the heck is this?" And he circles it. I was like, "Holy shit, yeah." Crazy.
And what's so amazing is now, generations are getting more wiser and more open and more community involved. So, in my opinion, the line has moved, right? And that kind of leads into the mindset. So, one thing that I understood is that all the properties on the west side values just flew up, right? And then, everything on the East values stay low, right? And, it's a big movement here talking about the East side or whatever. Now, right, these last 2 or 3 years has been a big hot topic on development on the East side. Well, I mean, we're talking about back in 2014, 15, I understood what I was managing other portfolios for investors and what their appetite was. But I realized the only way I could get in the game is really take a risk on myself, right? And my wife is not a risk taker, but I convinced her to let me take a HELOC. And if anybody doesn't know what a HELOC is, a home equity line of credit. And when I first came to her with the idea, she's like, "We're going to lose the house. We're going to lose it." I said, "That's not how it works. Our home is going to secure this line of credit, and I'm going to invest." So I started investing in a neighborhood called Blue Hills. Now, if we're talking about the Truce Divide, we're talking about you going 2 major streets over. So you got Truce, you have another avenue called Paseo, now Martin Luther King Boulevard. Oh no, they changed that. Let me correct that. Did they change?
I was gonna say it's back to Paseo, correct?
Yeah, back to Paseo. That's crazy. So that was happening. So one thing I understood is that I know I can't afford anything on the West, but I'm going to go over here to Blue Hills and just kind of take a risk. And it was a real risk at that time because majority of the community at that time, Kansas City is the last to all trends. So,
every time
we the last to every trend. For those, listen to different podcasts, everybody, Kansas City, whatever, because we still are, more reasonable to the rest of the country. So we had a lot of REO companies coming in buying bulk of, properties and just sitting on them. So they were sitting on them and selling them. And so I found, a house on Park, another one on Woodland. I think I paid $5,000 for one. Got into a tough negotiator, paid $12,000 for the other one, and we, your boy almost lost his shirt on on those first couple ones, because it's one thing understanding on acquisition, but contracting, emphasis on and tracting.
Yes, sir.
It's a different ball game. So I really
TJ,
try to hone that. Yeah.
Just to clarify, so you're taking the risk, you're starting to invest your personal money.
Yeah.
Are you still working at in the lumber industry?
Still, because like I mentioned, my wife ain't a risk taker, right?
Right.
So I got to keep that check hitting the account every 2 weeks to make her feel comfortable. Right. So I'm literally balancing two things: building this business, start investing or whatever. And I don't know where I end up really tapping into this though, but I end up focusing on my passion as my main business and using my full-time as a part-time. And I just had a shift, and that mind shift really came at the right time. Now that I look back on it, for the simple fact that my relationship at the company, we were going through an acquisition, because that's when the lumber market tanked. Everybody was getting scared. We lost a contract, our biggest contract with Lowe's at the end. We didn't know what we were going to do, and they ended up selling my plant. And we went to another company, and another company culture is drastically different. So all these things were happening. So I was like, this is my telltale sign. It's time to really get focused. So I did. And in the middle of doing those, I got through those different projects. And then I end up meeting a gentleman by the name of Dre Taylor. And Dre,
let's stop there for 1 second, DJ.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So we'll come right back to that. But I wanted to chat about real quick. You mentioned the first couple of properties you bought, $5,000 and $12,000.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of rundown on what those properties look like. How long did they take you to turn them? How much did it cost you? What'd you sell them for? Let's talk details on these.
Yeah, so starting out, I really didn't understand the piece of contracting, right? So I'm telling you, I didn't have
contracting.
Contracting. Yeah, emphasis on con. I didn't have anything sexy set up. My spreadsheet was whack. My draw schedules was like, oh, you finished with painting, whatever. I didn't have any lien waivers, all these different things that I do now man, I was flying blind, but I was just scrapping and getting it done. And I got through those rehabs, and back then, the acquisition was around 12 or 5, like I said. I could be all in one. I think I was all in these properties right at 55, right?
Okay.
And I'm talking about to the studs. So if anybody know about appraisals, the appraisal, you go C1 to C5, I think, or something like that. C1 is new construction. C2 is dang near new construction. Back then, I was probably a C3. It was getting good, but it was just not where I'm at now. And instead of selling the properties, I start understanding, and that's where that bigger pockets tapped in the BRRRR strategy, right? I started tapping into understanding, thanks through some mentorship by a lady named Debbie Swearinger, and helped me understood how to understand. I have this asset. Now it's seasoned. What I mean by season, I have tenants in the property. Get you a line of credit on them, and that's what I end up doing. Is I end up cash out, refi, and then going to other projects. So that's
what do you on those properties. What did you cash flow on those? So you said you were 55,000 and you put tenants into them. What did the rent look like back then on those?
Yeah.
And was this like 2013, 2015?
Yeah, this is about 2014, 15.
Yeah, okay.
And I, your boy didn't know what cap rates was. I didn't do the 1% rule. Like, okay, 800, 850. It's just what it was. What's the market saying? 850. Oh, okay, let's run off for 850. At that time, that's when I started understanding, like different websites like Renometer, right? So I could kind of tap into those things and see what the market. I knew what we was doing on the West because I was managing other people's property. So I'm like, okay, we chart for 3-bedroom, 1 bath. We had 1,200, 1,275 or whatever. I said, I know I could at least get 875 or 800 or whatever. Being in this market now and thinking about then, it's just mind blowing because, like I used to think like 875 was ridiculous. Like,
oh yeah,
man, that was high. Like wow, But now I'm like, no, that wasn't. That was affordable. So it's just that to me, I think that's really a testament to the power of real estate. Real estate is the only game that I know, or investment that is the most forgiving investment. Yeah. Prime example, you could buy something all the way wrong. Just sit back and wait. Just wait. All you gotta do is sit back and wait. I promise you, you'll recover
at some point.
You'll like a winner. I'm telling you.
Yeah. What do you think today, if you were to guess, those first two houses you do, what are they worth today? And do you still own them, or did you sell them so you can continue to grow?
Well, guess what? I don't have to guess on that because it's a schedule of real estate that I have to look at every day to keep talking to these banks.
So yeah, you still own them.
Yeah. So I still own both of them. I just went through some underwriting. So the one on Park is coming back at 170.
Wow.
And Woodland, just because, and this is where it gets interesting. So even though this house on Woodland is in Blue Hills, it has a 64110 zip code.
Oh, that's prime.
Oh man, it's beautiful.
That's all that matters.
It's a beautiful thing. So it skews things a little bit. So I'm probably can touch somewhere about 180. So and
you bought those for 5,000 and 12,000.
Yeah, 5,000. Yeah. So I'm like 50 grand in, right? And
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So do you think is it just are those worth so much now because of the market, or are the neighborhoods improving as well?
The neighborhoods are improving, but the other thing is this: geographically, land is running out.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's man, you can't do too much on the West. So the one thing I feel like
it started to move that way. Everything has started to move.
So what I personally feel, and I'm actually sitting in the building right now on Prospect. I feel like Prospect is going to be the new truce. I really do. You have seen different. I call them big dogs. People that been doing it way longer, much more seasoned than me. It's two gentlemen that went up and down truce before it was popular, and
Not at
I'm
all.
telling you, yeah, they brought everything you can think of commercial, residential, and
Yeah,
whatever.
I'd
And
agree with you.
yeah,
Prospect, you could definitely feel the difference even between Truce and Prospect at this point. Like when I drive down Prospect, to me, that is the Truce of 10 years ago. And it just feels there's a different feel there,
yeah.
and just of buildings and vacancies and everything else. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
not
it's
financial
and
advice, guys. Don't go out there and buy a bunch on Prospect and then or Truce and tell us we're wrong. But Terrell knows this city as good as anybody when it comes to real estate, and I would say I'm right along lines with him, and he is 100% in line with his thinking there.
yeah, and you can see different things happen. The first thing that happens is infrastructure, right? So
Yeah.
we got heated bus stops on Prospect, and you can see digital screens rolling with jobs and this and advertisement. The legalization of marijuana happened, right? Well, 2 years ago, across the street from this same place that I'm sitting at, somebody purchased a property and cranked up, and now they have a drive-through dispensary. I mean, and it's packed. You see anything from Mercedes Benz to BMWs or whatever, it just flowing through the deal, and it's like, wow, on Prospect.
Yeah. It's
So
a cloud of smoke right there. You're like, why is it smoky? There's a cloud over this place. Oh, that's why.
it's crazy. So it's those different things that you kind of look at, and just willing to take the gamble, and just really believing in and staying the course, man. Stay the course and trusting your process. Really.
Yeah, even as early as 2019, to put in perspective, those houses that he owns, on those first couple that he bought, Park and what was the other,
Woodley.
Park and Woodland. I
Woodley.
was going to say Washington. Yeah, Woodland. That's a good spot actually.
Yeah.
They were probably 100,000 totally redone. I mean, they've doubled in price essentially since 2019. I would say. I mean, that's how fast it's happened, and you can't find anything, not even a remodel over there for under 60-ish.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. The
trash,
complete gut right now.
completely
The
trash.
complete gut is about 60,000.
Yeah, it's about as low as we can find them in
Yeah,
that area. If you're lucky, I mean, and that's if you. I mean, you really got to be on it to get that.
and you probably got to jump. I mean, honestly, you got to shoot. You probably got to drop another 100 into
Yeah,
it.
all day. Those things are so
Yeah, yeah,
expensive.
yeah,
These houses
yeah.
were built in the early 1900s, 1920, 1940, and a lot of them have been sitting for a long time. Like they're rough. These things are complete guts.
Yeah, it's
But so tell us a little bit more here. So what do you today? What are you kind of working on? So this Abandoned Housing Act in Kansas City is a pretty interesting concept. Talk a little bit about that. Tell us kind of what the background of the Abandoned Housing Act is, why it came to fruition, and what it is, how you go about becoming a buyer in the Abandoned Housing Act.
Yeah, so the thing about it is, like with any good thing, people try to use it in the wrong way. And
Hell, yeah.
yeah, right. And I used to really hold this close to my chest for the simple fact that people just think one thing: profit. The one thing that I really try to position when I do these type of cases is, how can I position it for everyone around me to benefit? Because to me, that's just the power in real estate, man. You could be a blessing to people, because you can provide a home that people couldn't even believe they would ever live in. You can think about the people that's actually working on a home. The thing that's the most humbling thing about what I do is that I think about how many households I'm feeding. And that's humbling, and it's a lot of pressure. Payroll is no joke. But those things. So when you talk about scalability, you need some type of break somewhere. And the Abandoned Housing Act has been really, really a good tool to use if you know how to use it in the right, correct way. So in the state of Missouri, you can, if you're a nonprofit, let me be clear, if you're a legitimate nonprofit, you can acquire a home that through the Abandoned Housing Act. Now, it has to meet certain qualifications. It has to be behind on taxes. It has to have code violations, nuisance violations, and it has to be proven vacant. Now, as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, our community has been taken advantage in so many different ways by outside investors. So you had a lot of investors came in and brought stuff and just said, forget it. They just wrote their losses and let stuff sit. There was an article a few years back about a slumlord millionaire out of California that brought everything that you could think of at 2 tax sales and had over 900 plus homes in our market. Finally,
it was just letting them sit and deteriorate to the
man. It was crazy.
It was disgusting.
So you think about these neighborhoods, right? So you think about a person that owns their home that's doing the best they can to keep it up and sit next to one of these properties. So what's the benefit is that each neighborhood in Kansas City is a HOA. That HOA is a nonprofit. The only issue is that they don't have capital to rehab the homes or dispense or get rid of blight. So a for-profit entity or individual like me, they describe me as what is called a rehabber. I have to go through an application process through Legal Aid, which is a nonprofit organization that works in different avenues, tenant right acts and neighborhood development, different things like that. And I'm vetted, I'm approved, and I have to show the financial wherewithal to actually get through a project because, mind you, as you working on a abandoned house, you do not have the title until after the rehab is done. The title is held under a memorandum of understanding, and then once it's finished, it's rewarded to the nonprofit, and then it's rewarded to you as the new owner after it meets not only the standards of the court, but the standards of the community, right? So
you as an individual investor, you can redo the house essentially through the nonprofit, and then they reward you that deed once you're done. Is that correct?
Because essentially,
and that's through legal aid.
Legal aid. So it's the Abandoned Housing Act program. Now, what I'm saying is you are risking all your capital. So,
and that's what we're going to get into next. It's a huge risk that you're putting out there. You've really got to understand. I mean, you better understand real estate. Number one, you better understand how much money you're putting on the line, and just you really are taking a huge risk, and just hoping for, somewhat of a reward, but not really. You're really doing it more so as a philanthropic, like trying to make this area better, because you could lose it all. And tell us why it's such a risk, TJ. Like, explain one of your scenarios that we've talked about in the past that's happened to you.
Yeah. So the thing it's so many variables, right? Okay. So as I described earlier, the East Side is not the most popular, wasn't the most popular place, right? It's becoming popular now. So imagine after you get finished with the rehab, go talk to a bank. They're gonna look at you. They used to look at me and laugh. That's the inside, right? But let's talk about the community. The perception of even me, but development that happens with inside the urban core, a lot of people don't engage the community. So they come outside and they come and do their thing or whatever the case may be. But you have to navigate several different things. You need to navigate the block you're working on. You need to navigate the homeowners association that you're dealing with, from the president to the committee members of the community, to let them know that, hey, I'm for real. I'm going to stand by my word. I'm going to try to do the best by the community or whatever. And this is what I'm about. And this is going to be the end use of the property. A lot of people, like I told you, I'm a person that wants to lead people to homeownership. But one thing I understand is that everybody can't not only own a home, they can't maintain one. So I really try to position these properties to serve as incubators to people can get up to that snuff. So imagine walking into a community saying, hey, I'm going to rent these properties for a little while, whatever. Oh, we don't want to be rentals, but it has to be a different approach. My approach is this. I won't own or manage any property that I want personally living in. So when I'm going in and rehabbing these properties, I don't have granite in my kitchen, to be honest with you, but these properties have granite countertops, soft close cabinets,
New
hardwood floors,
cabinets,
brand new windows, high efficiency
HVAC.
HVAC system, because I can't stand window units. I don't like the way they look. They don't work. Even
And
down
you guys
to
got to realize a
the
lot of these houses have window units. Like
yeah.
he has to put the entire HVAC system, everything in. Like it's not it's a huge undertaking and expense.
I mean, I was just thinking about when I first, because I just literally got off the phone with my HVAC guy. I used to do an HVAC system, and we talking about all new duct work, right? We got to do duct work, framing, this. And I could used to run like $5 or $6 grand. I just paid 11,000, 11K, 11K. It's crazy right now. So the thing about it is, I know I have to navigate the neighborhood just different kind of ways, because if you don't engage, you look as an outsider, and how do they treat outsiders? That means they would break into your property and take everything you got, because you're not there with it, right? So how do I get the gentleman next door, Steve, or whoever? Hey man, listen, here go $25 a week, can you keep the grass cut? Or it'd be little kids walking down the street, man, they'd be staring, they'd be trying to figure out, hey man, you want to join and pick up trash? To me, that's workforce development. Forget what the news.
Absolutely, I love that.
Workforce development. How do I get people engaged in what we doing or whatever, and they get excited and they like, where's the next one at? So to me, that's
you get engagement from the locals, which is huge, because on top of that, and you might be getting ready to hit on this, but they then look out for your property, and they look out for you, and they're calling you saying, hey TJ, something doesn't look right, you might want to come check this out. That is one of the biggest things that I learned in this business is, hey, let's become friends with some of the neighbors, because nobody loves renters. There's just negative connotation. It's kind of stupid, in my opinion. It's because slumlords, whatever else, they just let stuff go to trash. And that's what everybody in their mind, that's what they see a rental property being, right? But the reality is a lot of us take good care of it. But if we can get the neighbors buy-in and like, hey, we care about you, your property value, all this, like they're going to help you out and call you.
TJ, you have to go to like the HOAs in the communities to get approved to do these projects, right?
Yeah.
What was it difficult? Because I'm sure they hear these pitches all the time from people coming from a very selfish motive.
That's got to really bad right now. That's what TJ was saying before the show, and let's talk about that a little bit deeper. Go ahead, Ryan. But
how they get people with selfish motives that, hey, I'm going to do this, and then they're just looking to turn the profit. Was it tough convincing the communities of like, hey, I'm real, I want to help and stuff like that, or how is that process?
Yeah, you have to prove your salt in the game. To be honest, when I first started, a lot of people wasn't doing them, or people didn't really. It's kind of was like a little bit of a secret, for lack of a better term.
It was a niche that not many people knew about.
I think it was, the legislation was new, so like I was I had to be honest. It was a year and a half straight that I went to different communities, just sitting in meetings, being involved, seeing where I can help or whatever. After I understood what was the requirements for a property to qualify, I would write down addresses and, hey, send something over to legal aid. Can we talk to Miss Linda Brown? Can we talk to, Mr. Pat? All these different communities, and nothing ever shook. But one property I did send in, and they had a rehabber that backed out. And I went in, they was really under the gun, because the next day they were going to court to get temporary possession for the rehab. So I had to scramble and put together a bid. And man, when I'm telling you, this one property took everything I had, man. It took, I didn't tell my wife this at the time, but I tapped my 401k. I tapped my 401k. I maxed out my Southwest credit card, because you could float capital for 12 months. I did whatever it took to get through this project. And man, 8 dead raccoons later, getting shut down by the city, Contractor ran off with 17K. After all that was done, we finally got it done. And what's so crazy, I'm never gonna forget this address. It's on Brookwood. And after we finally got through it, right in the middle, we wrapping up, legal aid calls me again saying, hey, somebody else backed out another one. Can you do it? So now I'm getting the confidence, right? So they're like, okay, yeah, all right, I got through that one. I don't know how I got through that second one, but then so it was like, I swear, in this 1 year, it was a path of people backing out of these projects, and I was just delivering every time, and that's why I feel like I built a reputation with legal aid. Like, he actually really gets it done. So it went from that to the aspect of, now I'm finding properties and I'm bringing it to them and I'm showing them and doing a scale, because I don't know if they have any goals, but you know, the like Mr. Charles over at Tribe Blenheim, you know, I don't know how many projects I did over there, but he was just like, man, you know, now this block doesn't have a black home. So like, a lot of these, it's like 1 or 2 houses on the block. You rehab these houses, the rest of the block straight.
Yeah,
So
turns it over.
That's where the impact comes in.
Yeah. No, it really does. It makes a huge difference. Tell us one or two of your horror stories when it comes to these Abandoned Housing Act properties.
Well, one that I probably wouldn't be sitting on the show today at all, because I would have to be at another lumber yard or probably McDonald's. Hell, I don't know. I'll be somewhere working. It's crazy how sometimes the Lord tests your will and see if you're faithful. Right when I was making that transition from the 9 to 5 to jump into this full time, I had found a property over on a street called Bell Fountain. I had finished a project down the street. Actually, the attorney said, hey, this one qualifies too. You want to do this one? We opened the case. He dropped the ball, man. I mean, it's really no other way to put it. He dropped the ball on his litigation and different things like that. I am 125K in the middle of the pandemic. In the middle of the pandemic, 125K in, somebody walks off the street and says, I have rights to the property. Like, what? You know, so now we got litigation. This is, you know, you hear, I hate to keep referencing bigger pockets, but you know, Brandon always say, build your team, build your team. I didn't know what a lawyer, the importance of a real estate lawyer until then. That was, that whole thing shifted because I thought legal aid was on my side. Not to say they was against me, but legal aid doesn't have my fiduciary duty in front of them. They are the attorney for the community, not me. So here I got 125K hanging out there.
No deed to the house.
No deed to the house. They lose the case. They lost it. They lost the case.
Who lost it?
Legal aid. Legal aid lost the case. I had engaged an attorney, my attorney. I love him today, Kevin Odrowski.
Shout out Kevin.
Yeah, shout out to Kevin. Man. You know, this house was completely done, leased up. Had got an appraisal because I believe in getting an appraisal for the appraiser. It appraised at 215. I had a person that was living there that was down their luck, gave them an opportunity to rent. Now I'm looking like a criminal because they in the house. Now this other person is coming off the street. By the way, the house that we opened the lawsuit against, the owner was in jail for life for killing an FBI agent. So,
man,
we know it is not his house.
There's some bad juju on this property.
Some relative come off the street and said it's their property, whatever. So they lose the case because they did not ask for possession, they asked for reimbursement, some crazy stuff. I don't know. It didn't make any sense. So here I am getting a phone call. And then I'm like, how do I tell this to my wife?
You just lost $125,000.
Oh, in my mind, I lost 215K.
Yeah, right.
You know,
for 250.
I done lost 250. I said, well, so I went upstairs. I said, honey, have you ever saw somebody that lost 200,000 in one day? Like, what are you talking about? I was like, we lost the house. This house I've been working on it. And she was like, she kind of looked at me like she still wasn't gathering what I was saying, because you got to understand, this had been out so long. I'm strapped for cash because I got other projects going. Well, long story short, man, my experienced attorney got engaged with legal aid, coached him up, some other help from a great, well, I think this guy almost created a man house, a guy named Greg Lombardi, came in and did some things, and man, it got overturned, man. And that was
stressful period in your life.
Man. And you know what's so crazy, Scott and Ryan, you won't believe this. I'm going to court tomorrow on the same type of issue.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
$70,000.
So this happens to you. You about to lose all that. You almost lost all that money. You got saved. What motivates you to continue? Because you won, or does it not like terrify you? Or like your wife, is she not like, hey, we need to do something else?
No, you never gave us your wife's response either. Like, let's finish that part out.
but she just like you know, like your spouse don't really understand what you're saying because she's not feeling it.
She's not in the field.
You know, she's not feeling it, whatever, you know, lights are still on, you know, for a little while and different things like that. Nothing changed. But I have to be honest, I'm thankful for that. You know, I'm thankful for that situation because I didn't know I could survive. So now, so to answer your question, it's like, whew, I took that, bring on whatever next. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's get it again.
And it's because you truly believe in your mission. And when you wholeheartedly believe in what your mission and what you're doing, the reality is like you're gonna have bumps and bruises. You're gonna run into some dead ends. And if you're truly passionate about that, you're gonna keep going. And that's exactly what you're doing.
And my thing is, like, man, I'm telling you, I'm doing all I can to do right. I'm not trying to do anything wrong. So, you know, my faith.
And that's why the city and these people are behind you too. Like, you know, they're going to overrule or really look at this case, in my opinion. And maybe I'm wrong, but it's like, look, this guy is really doing what's right. How do we help him get this figured out and not cost him a fortune in lawyer fees, not make it sit forever? Because the reality is we kind of want this for the community. So we need to push it along and get this done and get it done right.
And Scott, I wish everybody really thought like you, but like when I actually had to go to trial on this thing, and the other attorney on the opposite side was like one of those pro bono attorneys, like if you win, I win. And he went on my Facebook and saw I belonged to an investment group on Facebook, and he painted me out to be a big time investor that was just buying and taking stuff and all this other stuff. And I was just like, you know, that's amazing perception and reality, right? So it was just a really interesting. So that alone had humbled me. That was a very, very, very scary moment. Another moment is I just don't sleep. I don't sleep the same anymore. Ever since I've been doing this, is because you have different things that's moving out of there over there, and man, people just take, man. You know, like take. They just take, you know, from HVAC systems to stuff. I mean, it's just always something. You know, the building I'm sitting here right now, it was it New Year's or Christmas? No, it was the day after Christmas or something. We get a phone call because now I have a strategic plan, right? So we do all the rough end stuff or whatever, get the walls up, and then I'm putting a hardwire alarm system, in just so I can. That's the only way I can sleep. So if my phone buzzing, we can know exactly what happens. But literally, I get a phone call like the building's on fire. I'm like, there's no way the building's on fire. So I pull up the cameras. I don't see any building on fire. But next thing I see is some guys opening the door and letting the fire department in. Now this building was vacant up to 2 months ago. And I'm thinking like, who is that? So I'm on the phone with the police department, like, hey, listen, it's two guys in the building and they letting people in this property. Like, well, I don't know what's going on. So I fly over here and come to find out the contractor didn't lock the windows, and these people was in here sleeping, you know. And I was just like, this is unbelievable. They thank God they didn't tear steal anything away, but it's just all those different things. But it's part of the game, man. It's part of it's
Yeah,
part
it
of
is.
it is.
You're going to run into those things, especially. I mean, you're moving and shaking. You're doing a lot of different things. And what's your plan like going forward? What are you really trying to do? Are you continuing forward with the Abandoned Housing Act? Are you trying to get into other things, more multifamily? Tell us a little bit there.
Well, first I don't even believe I'm here, like, talking about different properties or financing deals or whatever the case may be. But I really want to figure out a way to really solve this issue, right? I could be
The issue of
affordability. Because the thing about it, I could be wrong, but I feel like we could in Kansas City. I can't speak to the rest of the market, but here in Kansas City, I feel like affordable housing can be solved in 1 year. And that sounds like a crazy statement, but I think COVID has taught us a lot. We had all type of COVID money flying in for reliefs. Instead of spending that $4 million that they put people in a hotel for 90 days because they were sitting on the city's lawn, City Hall's lawn. What about if we took the $4 million and invested into all the schools that Scott mentioned that's sitting vacant now? Imagine what that would look like. Imagine revitalizing the schools, making them a great 2-bedroom, 1 bath, because we have seen other groups like Sunflower Development. Brad Pitt had a group here that did a place off of Paseo that had converted these schools into retirement homes, right? What about if we do the same thing for houseless? But the difference would be put pediatric, psychiatric care at the base level. Imagine what that would happen to. What would that look like? Imagine if we had trash cans. So that might sound crazy to people out there, but in Kansas City, we don't have trash cans in the urban core. You sit 2 bags on the curb, wild dogs, mice, whatever, tear these bags up and makes the community looks terrible.
Well, and it's not just the urban core; it's Kansas City proper. Because even where I'm at, my community, it's funny that you bring this up because this morning I literally was watching the guys pick up the trash bags. Today's our trash day, and I thought to myself, man, this is crazy that every other community outside of Kansas City has cans. The trash truck comes by, it picks the can up, and it does it itself. We still have trash guys on the back of these trash trucks picking up bags, and half the time the bags are ripped. You're right, because animals get into them. And the trash goes everywhere. I mean, it is ridiculous because they don't want trash cans; they just want bags.
Yeah, the windy day that we had the other day, it's all over the streets. No connected sidewalk. So when you think about the perception of people's neighborhoods, people taking pride in their neighborhoods, it starts with how it looks. So if a kid is growing up in a community and no trash everywhere, what is he gonna do? When he's walking from the corner store or whatever, he gonna throw his bag of chips out there because it's trash everywhere anyway. Right. So different things like that. I mean, it could be transformative. I really would like to figure that piece out. But I guess what I understand from the business standpoint is that, like, I'm not the biggest guy in Kansas City. And I'm like an in
Well,
between.
you're about the shortest guy.
I was about the shortest, right? So, but it's like you at an in between spot that now I'm at a place I have to throw everything I have at it in order
Yeah.
to scale to be respected, to simply be respected, to get into larger deals so I can do more of what I'm doing. So, like right now, having conversations with the bank is challenging, right? It's,
Yep.
everybody is like, they waiting. I think people think 2008 to 2010 is going to happen again. It's not. It's not going to happen again. So to constantly keep having these conversations and finding partnerships with banks and whatever. So I really think I need to really sit back and figure out what that looks like to scale, to get just above another level, so I can be more efficient with my time and efforts and do something in a greater mass. I one thing I did do that has been changing, just changing from how I think, is that I onboarded a fractional CFO the middle of last year. And that has been phenomenal, for the simple fact that now that when I'm going through deals or putting performance together, uh, he can talk directly to the bank on my behalf and know that it's already underwritten, and I can be way more efficient with doing other things.
Best investment ever. Same
Yeah.
with my business. We talked about this Friday last week.
Yeah.
You and I were chatting, and I said, "Hey,
Yes.
that freed me up to do more than anything else. That one hire."
Yeah.
When you're pushing, when you're turning several houses a year, you'd be surprised how many transactions at Home Depot you've got to track, and how much time that takes to go in and break that down per property. I mean, all this stuff, and it takes so much time to track those things. So I am pumped for you that you got that.
Scott, right? You guys probably could testify to it. Like, people might have a perception that but I feel broke every day, man.
Every day.
They
think you're making money left and right.
Soon as some money hit the account, I'm telling you, it's gone. I mean, it is gone. Payroll never misses a week. Every week, I'm averaging $10,000 trying to.
And there are some weeks it's like, man, I don't know how you have to move money around just to pay this payroll, like to pay this credit card. And then the next week you might have 200 grand coming to the account. It's just, if you want to learn how to strategically finance, go find a few real estate investors that flip houses or whatever else, because guess what? There's always money somewhere, and I'm going to figure it out. But man, it is stressful.
It is. It's stressful. And that's the perception that, like, people on the outside looking in really don't know, man. They really don't know what you have on the line. They had this perception that a big baller,
just
or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, you're killing it.
Killing it. And damn it, as I just mentioned, shit, you could be one deal away from just folding. Like,
exactly.
Close down shop.
All that work goes to nothing.
It's done, man. It's done. So
back to the lumberyard.
Yeah, back to the lumberyard, man. And you know what? That is my, so when I walked away from the lumberyard, he's one of the sharpest guys I ever met. His name is Jesse. And he believed in me. He believed in me to jump ship with me. And he's like, whatever you need, I want support, whatever. So he's my operations guy. So, often I look over at Jesse, we work side by side. I said, man, look what time it is. We would still be at the lumberyard. He said, you still think about that? I said, man, I think about it every day.
Every day. Yep.
Every day.
No, that is so true. I mean, you're always going to remember where you came from and where you started. And the reality is, it's like that gave you an opportunity to even get in the real estate business, right? Like, you didn't know you wanted to be in real estate back when you were in college. And that kind of led you to this path, being around those people every day.
It is. And it's just like, I mean, just to even, now it's like, like the show, they call this the show me state, right? But it's not show me improve, right? It's just show. Yeah. So the thing about it is like I feel like now these last couple of years, I'm finally stepping into my grace, but I've been proving a long time. I've been grinding a long time. But now, people like, you just started. No, man, it's 10, 12, 15 years to overnight success, man. And people don't
Exactly.
understand that, like, this real estate game. That's why I constantly trust trust it, and stay the course. Just whatever it is, your
Yeah.
wife might understand, your girlfriend, your parent, whoever, they might not believe. But at the end of the day, that God didn't give them your vision. So just stay with it, and
Yeah.
keep your foot one foot
No,
at a
you're 100% right. Like if you're truly passionate, like we were saying earlier, and you truly believe in what you're doing, like keep going. Like obviously there's some times that you're going to have hiccups and it's going to hurt. And trust me, it's happened to me many times too, where it's like, holy shit, we're about to lose 40, 50, 60 grand on this flip. Like we really screwed up here. You know what? It's all keep pushing. Like the reality is those things are going to happen when you're moving. And the thing for you, TJ, is you've got all this publicity in Kansas City now because you're this guy that's out here doing these things that other people didn't want to do for so long. And people hadn't heard about you in the past, so they think it is an overnight success, and they don't have any idea that I started doing this in 2014 and 15 before anybody ever talked about it. Now it's the popular thing. So yeah, Ryan, TJ's on the front cover of the business journal half the time. You see his beautiful face, Rolex wearing. I mean, this guy's out here
Cadillac driving.
Hey man,
Cadillac driving.
Hey, listen, when they say you got to look the part to have the conversations, right? So now that I'm in the elitist group that Scott is in with the Centurions thing, you gotta fit in, right? So you have to act like a big boy, but hey, Monday through Wednesday for certain, you're gonna see me out here. Just you won't even recognize.
His shorts and t-shirt out in the field, picking stuff up, doing what he's got to do.
Let's get it. That's all part of the course. Man.
I catch TJ taking a quick afternoon nap sometimes. He's like, man, I didn't get any sleep last night. 3:00, he's taking a quick snooze.
Yeah, up every day at 4:15, man.
At the gym.
We could rest when we did.
Yeah, no, see, I like my sleep, but no, I agree with you, man. You really are out here doing amazing things, and you and I are about to be doing a few things together. When we're talking about affordable housing in Kansas City, there's some things we're working on. TJ keeps putting me on the back burner, but that's all right. He doesn't know yet, but we've got a few things already moving forward.
Now, Ryan, you already know what time it is. It's really the opposite way around,
That is so not true. No,
Scott,
we were just talking last week. No, that's bullshit.
It's a classic.
But no, the reality is TJ and I, we're gonna put our brains and our experience together, and we're gonna go do a lot of these things that he was talking about. He's ready to take that next leap. I've been talking about that for the last 12 to 18 months. Like, when are we going to actually do it? Because the reality is, like, we can keep sitting here doing what we're doing. It gets boring. You get stale. You get content. How do we truly make this impact and go to the next level? And that's the point that both of us are at. It's like, we're both so ready. We've just been waiting. We're going to get there, and we're going to do some cool things here in Kansas City and many other cities around the country, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, TJ's rocking it, guys. He has one of the biggest hearts. He's a funny dude, great to hang out with, but always willing to help. And that's what I think I respect the most is, like, he'll pick up his phone. He'll wake up from his 3:00 afternoon nap to answer his phone if he hears it. But he's always there. He's always helping, and he really does care about the community. He's all in on it. So.
That's the most powerful. That's the most powerful thing about the field that we're in, real estate, is that you can make your fair share of the deal and help people, man. I mean, you really
there's enough to go around. That's what drives me so crazy. Some of these old school guys or out of state folks come in, and it's like, look, there's enough to go around for all of us. So why don't we help each other to go a lot further? Yes, and that's what it makes it a lot more fun when we all win, so we can all have fun, right?
Yeah.
But TJ, we appreciate it, man. We'll probably need to wrap it up. We're getting a little bit long here. Honestly, I'm probably going to have you on for another podcast because there's so many things I want to hit with you.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity. I love this type of stuff, man. I really do.
Yeah.
You're gonna be back on. You guys might see TJ and I on the cover of the Wall Street Journal one of these days.
That's right. That's right.
TJ,
and it'll be like, yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that article that came out the other day. It was Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart and talking about short people really do have insecurities when they're next to these tall people. It's going to be just exactly what it's like.
Well, TJ, is there any last things you might want to plug, or how can people reach out to you?
I love LinkedIn. I know everybody get excited about Facebook and well, people are on Facebook, but Instagram and Snap. I don't have a Snap or anything, but I really appreciate LinkedIn because it's attentional, and people know we're here to handle business, not any other stuff. So you can reach me on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty good at responding. But
if I can give you one recommendation, do Twitter, the Twitter real estate community.
Okay.
The retweet community, retweet community. It's amazing. The people on there are so abundant. I have learned so much the last couple of months being on there. It's absolutely amazing. And people provide all details you could ever need, like of every project. It is a different community.
And what's the beauty about LinkedIn? Because I'm not good with the characters with Twitter, but the beauty about LinkedIn, if you link your Twitter to your LinkedIn platform, anything you post, it automatically goes over. So so I might show activity, but to your point, I do need to start looking close more at my Twitter. That's a good.
Got to interact a little bit on Twitter, dude. That real estate community on there is amazing. I have learned so much on it.
That's great. All right. Any last things?
No, I appreciate it, TJ. You're the man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I look forward to being back on, and man, let's all trust the process and stay the course.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, TJ. And thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to follow us on all social media and everywhere where you listen to podcasts, and we'll catch you on the next one.